Thank you for joining us. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about what we're going to be discussing today?
Sure. Yeah, again, my name is Dan, and thanks to everyone for talking today. We're going to talk about internet and video game addiction. It's a topic that I think has impacted just about everybody who owns a cell phone or goes on the internet and plays video games. And the story that I wrote about was the Chinese government has decided to limit online video game playing for kids under 18 to just 3 hours a week, just 1 hour between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The government has reported that about over half, 63% of Chinese children play video games very often. 13% say, or the government says that 13% play mobile games for more than 2 hours a day, every day. Um, and so the government has taken this step to limit the use of video games for kids. The way they're going to enforce that is kind of unclear right now. The video games may use facial recognition software to make sure that kids are only playing 1 hour a day. That they're going to confirm these children's identities to make sure that they're only playing a certain amount of time. But experts say that this might not really help. Instead of playing video games, children might go on other apps like TikTok or other uh, video apps that are very addictive and keep people attached to their screens.
Yeah, I sent the article in the chat, so if you guys want to check it out, just skim it, look through it quickly just to get an idea maybe of what we're talking about. You could do that. But Dan, go ahead with the question we have for the audience today, or one of the questions.
Yeah, so the first question I have is do you try to limit your time that you spend on screens like your phone or your computer or playing video games? Do you think that you could be addicted to the internet or your phone? I know I can spend way too much time looking at things like Twitter or even TikTok. It's very easy to lose 2 hours of your day just staring at a screen. So I'm wondering if you try to limit the time that you spend looking at screens.
It's very interesting topic today because addiction comes from when we stay over and over, uh, and it is overstate to something like games or to apps that we usually use like TikTok or snack video and etc. But I since a couple years ago, since I got this glasses, I start to limit my time to play game. In one side, I play game for just to enjoy them. I start to learn my English from the game, and I connect with people around the world with my game. But I lose many time and I lose many changes at that time, and well, I start to limit it and start to move to flourish my habits and also my hobbies such as writing or listening or playing football or etc. That's the idea that I want to talk about.
Yes, I think that it's important limit the time in the video game, but in other cases, it's important limit the time in your work. For example, I work from home, and sometimes I spend 12 or more hours in my screen in my laptop with my work. And sometimes the people become a workaholic in with your laptop only by work, not only with video games. Other scenario is when you spend more time in your work in your laptop and the rest time with video game. I think that miss is very dangerous for any person.
Yes, maybe we should limit how much time we work on the computer. Just no more working on computers. But Yuri, what would you like to say?
I just I just play game like first because my teacher make it, and I study English on quiz. My teacher make questions, so I answer it, and when I answer, I will get points.
Yes, so we are going to talk about that in another question. So like what positive things can you get from video games, and education is one as well. I remember when I was young, my sister and I would play like educational video games. So they're good too.
Mhm.
I think we. Is there anyone else who wants to talk about how they limit their screen time, or maybe being addicted to the internet? Or we can move on. It's up to you.
In my opinion, video game internet. I think that it has two sides, bad thing and good thing. Because internet or video game can help children improve their knowledge. People can learn everything, a lot of things from internet or video game. But with young children, it can it's they are not enough old to control their mind. So I think that if you are a parent, your parents, you must control, you must care your children to play with a game, video, access internet enough time. If they access internet or play game with a lot of time, they will be addicted. And I think that when they will be addicted, it isn't good for their health, for their knowledge, for their mind, for their brains. So we are adults. We must control our children because internet have done a lot of things. Because internet and video game is a store of internet, human internet. So one thing I conclusion that one thing has two sides, bad and thing. That's it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there definitely is some parental responsibility. Sorry, Dan. I think I cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say that answers one of our questions, which was, what do you think are the good things and the bad things about playing video games, or the positive and negative sides of video game playing that you see?
Yeah, I would like to hear what other people think of the positives and negatives of playing video games for both children and adults, because I think uh, both age groups experience both positives and negatives. But I saw you waving your hand. What did you want to say?
Now, due to easy internet and mobile phone on their hands, anyone can be addicted, right? Even I also can be addicted because I also control myself to see the Facebook or TikTok unlimited time. Even my kids play spring ball games and then play Among Us, and those are also good for their learning languages. The Scribble games, I also like the Scribble.io games, which they create a draw some pictures and they guess the other party or the participant guess the name so they can learn English languages, right? And that's a good part. Another good part is that if you play a certain time, you can control your mind and body, so you can be focused on one thing. But if you play on a regular or more time, you or I, anyone could be addicted. So I think we have to control ourselves. That's it. And another thing is my kids also play video game. I said Among Us or Scribble, like those games, and I have to check them. Oh, now it's enough time, so you have to stop. So please stop, stop. I have to say many times. I think that's the negative side for us, for
Yeah.
me.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. It's just like crazy to think about because I was gonna say there wasn't really like video games when I was younger, but there were. I guess I just think that my sister and I just didn't really play them as often. But with cell phones now and iPads, they're everywhere. It's just they're so much easier to play. So you really have to think, you know, how is this affecting me? But Jam, what did you want to say?
So I just think that's nothing bad or nothing good about the rule that we can limit the screen time, but we need to educate children and also adults that the reasons behind the way that they need to do that. For example, they need to limit the screen time with video games, but why video games, but not the others? Because video games sometimes it's good for training brains or something, but sometimes it's not good if we become so addicted to that kind of video games. But if we know that the reasons behind why we need to do that and why we need to protect our health, like eyes, like a lot of thing in the body, I still so if they know the reason behind why they need to do that, and they know that how it will affect to their health, to their life, to their future. So they will control. They need to control themselves instead of the other control their life. So that's my idea.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that there
that
could be more information or more excuse me, more you're right. I think parents should be taught more about, the effects of being in front of a screen, about using video games for a long period of time. And I don't think that there is much known or much taught to parents who are also playing video games and using their phones as well. So there's a
yes, I agree.
good point.
Education is important. It's good to know the effects. David, what would you like to say?
Yes, I want to talk about the good things and bad things and video games. For example, the good things is sometimes the video game help the people to develop problem solving skills or maybe encourage teamwork with friends or help you to work out or get in shape. I think that these are good things on video games, but bad things maybe sometimes the video games become time vacuum, and some video games are extremely violent and the people kill other people, and maybe this thing affect the personality of the teenagers. And sometimes I watch in the news that some people maybe that things that do in video games do in the real life.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on what type of video game that we're talking about because an educational video game is a lot different than military battlefield type
Yes.
of game.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true.
I was thinking that I played a lot of chess on my phone, which is a game, that's been around for hundreds of years, and it's good for thinking, but it's still like it becomes addictive, and you're still staring at your phone, and like it's easy to get on other apps while you're playing, and it's I know exactly the it's good to be playing chess, but it's bad to be, doing other things and being distracted. So
Yes. In my life, I just played only three video game, and I didn't like the video game because when I played video game and I lost, I was very nervous, and I think that is the bad aspects of the video game. And three video game that I played with my little brother. When I every time I lost, he continued the game until we finished the video game. And because of that nervous, I never uh, after them played the video game.
Did you say that you were nervous? It made you nervous?
When I lost in the game, when I was game over, until that I was nervous and why I'm lost. Because I always want to win.
Oh, okay, okay. So, I think we would say anxious. So it gives you like an uncomfortable, unsettled feeling. Is
That's
that how it made you feel?
that's true. Yes.
Yes, okay, I'm gonna send that in the chat. Yeah, it sounds like you were very invested in the game, like it became an important part for you. There we go. Um, Alfredo, what would you like to say?
Yeah, in my view, there are more disadvantages than advantages. Also, in my view, parents, families, perhaps societies, governments should apply some rules in this kind of video games. For example, for me, the rule that already put in practice the government of China is really good, no? Because children cannot play more than 2 3 hours per week or per day, something like that, no? So otherwise, there will be more disadvantages because people are spending a lot of time in this matter instead of playing games in nature or doing something more productive. No? For example, I have some nephews, no, that spend many hours per day, no, in video games, and for sure, sooner or later, it will have negative effects on them, no, in their health, in their view, or something else. No?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, what the effects are. I don't think there's been a lot of studies on, long-term effects. But before we move on, we have one more hand. I'll just say this real quick. But there was something that the article talked about, which we haven't talked about yet, is that for some children, or I guess for adults too, that video games can offer an escape. If home life is difficult for some reason, it can be, an escape for children to, be in a different reality. And I also think that it can help with imagination, being in a different reality can foster or develop creative thinking. Mahmoud, what did you want to say?
Hi everyone. I think the disadvantages of video games is more than the advantages, because the video games and the games in generally lose the time, and we can use this time in another things, good things, to communicate with other people, to improve our skills. I think, yeah, it's my opinion.
Did you talk about like how people can connect with one another through video games?
You can through video games, and we can through another platforms like Zoom and the social platforms. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's definitely possible now with I think Xbox has something called Xbox Connect. I think that's their platform. But there's programs, yeah, to do that, which is really interesting.
Yeah,
all
I
right.
wanted to. Oh, sorry, I was
Okay.
wanted to go back to something that Alfredo said, which he was in support of the Chinese government to limit video game playing, and one of my questions was, do you think that the government should, limit children's video game playing, or do you think it is a decision that parents should make, or if there was more education given to parents about the negative and positive effects, or do you think that both parents and governments should sort of both make the decision?
Well, can I talk? Can I say
Yeah, sure.
something? Yeah, thank you. Well, in my opinion, and clearly, parents are not putting some actions. No? At least I can see it in with my relatives, with my friends, with people on the streets, saying that all the time they are playing until night, etc. So, in my view, people are not putting actions, no. So, the government for sure should do something. I know, for example, people in Israel, they have a kind of rule that children cannot touch any electronic device on weekends, Saturday and Sundays. So that's very good because in that way, children can share their time with their parents and vice versa, and they can enjoy together, no, instead of playing one of them how to say instead of playing using electronic games, no? So in summary, people are not taking actions about it.
Hmm. Yeah, if parents aren't going to do it themselves, then maybe the government needs to step in and do it for people if they're not going to do it themselves. Yeah.
On the other hand, and there are some really negative effects because some of those video games are really rude.
Hmm.
Uh, for example, unfortunately, there was a case in Mexico, in the north of Mexico, a year or 2 years ago, that a children of 11 years old killed several people at school. No? Can you imagine a child, well, yeah, a boy of 11 years old killing people at school, no? Because video games, because his grandfather teach him to use weapons, etc.
Hmm.
Really sad. No?
Yeah, the violence in video games can certainly have an effect on people. So yeah, it's always positive and negative effects again. I think, was it Nestor? We haven't heard from him. I was. Could you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you for this occasion. As I'm concerned, I can say that video games are on one side useful in our life, but also they are very bad. Useful because we can use them to learn some things from them. Those things may be important in our daily life. For example, I used to play with on the piano because I'm very passionate with the piano, and I want to improve in playing it. So for me, that is very useful. But to the other side, it is very bad because when we use video games for only wasting our time, it is very bad. And also, other thing that I can say, video games somehow affect our daily life. Uh, for example, there are many people who are using them on their professional place. They are using those video games in their professional life, and this is very bad because it it reduces the hours of work, which give in the end the bad results. So for me, what is very good to do is to regulate their use, and they also define why we are using them, the objective of using those video games, and I think it can help us when we are using them with a defined objective. Thank you.
Yeah, I think knowing your goal with the video game is very important. Knowing, is this just to relax for a half an hour? Is this so I can learn something? Is this for work or something else? So I think that was a really good point. David, what would you like to say?
Yes, I think that mainly the people that control the time that their children spend in video games will be the parents, because I don't know how the government control it. I don't know if exists any platform that the governor can see for the time the people spending be video games. But I think that the parents spend all days with their children, and they can control this time.
Yes, so there definitely is a responsibility for the parents. But interestingly, the article talks about this. The Chinese government has made the video game companies, the platforms, the apps, they are the ones that need to regulate how much time children spend on the app. And they did this by, making accounts, and then on the account, you have to say who you are. You then have to verify who you are with facial recognition, so it sees your face. Um, I thought that was super interesting. So that's how they decided to regulate it. But like a question I have is, what's the punishment? Do you punish the child? Do you punish the company? Are there punishments? Like, it's very up in the air. You just don't know.
I
Tommy?
think that that's worth a good question. Firstly, I think that the responsibilities is for your parents. The parents is the person who control their children directly. So it's very easy for their parents to control their children. Besides that, I think that the government can control video game through the maker, through the internet access. When you access internet, sometimes you need to ask the ID, and some school ask parents to access the ID so they can control their children. So I think that the majority of responsibility is the parents. That's it.
Yes, yeah, it's interesting to think who is responsible, especially when they put it on the video game companies, which is really something different. Muhammad, what would you like to say?
Okay, thank you. It is actually same as David and Tom say. Parent has a lot possibility. I mean responsibility to do that. Has an important role in order to monitor their children. I guess yeah. One side, the government couldn't do much, and sometimes it is because their parent working too much because of the demands, or thanks to David it is a workaholic. And I guess the educational should be taught uh, to the parents rather than to the to the children itself. Okay, so and even more in this pandemic, okay, it will be their escape. Just like I'm gonna work on my work home, but actually they play game just only for escape. And yeah, that is the idea, I think.
Yeah, I think
It's
can be very hard for parents to monitor their children's use. Like as you said, if they're working or if they're busy, it's something that a lot of parents just can't do. So,
So yeah, yeah. So we're gonna be blamed in this time, like the
right?
government or the parent or the children who
Yeah,
got the
it's
punishment.
maybe
Thanks.
everybody is partly responsible to some
Yeah.
degree. So,
I
so yes, oh, sorry.
Mm. I think instead of limit the video game, that's better educate the people. Maybe one family want and like their children play video game, and the other family don't like and don't want. And I think we can't use the same rule and the same way for all people because their situation are different, and I think that is not good and that's not true.
I think you're right. I think it's hard to um, apply or tell all families what to do. I think you're totally right about that. But it's hard to make everybody do the same thing. Everyone's going to be different. I agree.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I think, excuse me, I think that's very complex. In my opinion, we have to use complex of limitation and education, and I think after several years, education is better than the limitation.
mhm.
Better works, I think.
Yes, we keep talking about education and how important that is for sure. This is something that we need more education about.
Yes.
Same as the Chinese government is asking to these companies that are streaming these online video games or games, and the Chinese government is going to punish or is going to just apply a kind of penalty to them if they don't follow the rule. I think that the governments should ask the developers to put some limits on the play on these video games or games. For example, if you are playing, you can play only 1 or 2 hours, and then the video game or game is going to be disabled. You know what I mean? So in that way, children and parents are not worried, or parents are not worried because the children is going to be all the time there. But if the developers are adding this kind of functionalities to control the time that people can spend in these video games or games, in my view, it could be a solution.
Mhm.
That is what they suggested is happening in the article. That these games will limit how much children play. But I think what I would be concerned about is you have all the identities for children on these platforms. They have their face, their age, their name, all of that, which I think is a bit concerning when it comes to identity theft, um, among other things. So there is a drawback to that solution. There's a negative consequence. But Binod, what would you like to say?
Yes, my view is a similar view of my previous friends. I think the developers should develop the game period for particular user ID or IP address, so that we cannot be our parents, or we cannot be always a referee that you should stop these games. I think the developers should create that system that there's a limit, and those developers must be monitored by the government so that they can make money and our children also can have fun. That's why I think the system should control, not done manually. That's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that the game developers do have a responsibility, but the games are designed to be addictive in many cases. Same with the apps. I mean, they're made so that people keep playing forever. I mean, that's what they want. So it's they have to figure that out. I mean, I guess to make a game that's fun to play, that people want to play, but not so addictive that it damages kids. And same with a lot of apps like TikTok, which are just the addiction is built into how the app was developed.
Okay, so I'm curious if you guys think that social media, so TikTok or Instagram, there's other social medias now, should be limited as well. It seems like a lot of people agreed that video games, especially for children, need to be limited. But what do you guys think of social media and the positives and negatives with that as well?
Yes, social media help to us um, connect together and make friends together. But we need to limit because we always do many times for TikTok or Facebook, and we need to have a limit when we do social media. In my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely limit the time that I spend on social media because I definitely notice the negative consequences with social media very quickly. Um, so that's just my take. Uh, let's see, David, what would you like to say?
Yes, I think that with the social media is the same. Maybe the people be limit the time that I spend in that, because sometimes it's very frustrating when you are talking with your friend and maybe your friend is only see your phone and only see Instagram or Facebook in the phone and not talk with you. Sometimes it's very frustrating this scenario.
Yes, it is very frustrating. I think we've all experienced that exact thing. So.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Mahmoud, what would you like to say?
Hi everyone. I think social media, like everything if in our life, have advantage and disadvantage. That is depends on our using for them. But I think if have a control for using social media, it is a good idea because we spend more of time on social media. If control this time and use the social media in a good ways, it is a good idea.
Yes, that reminds me of with the positives and negatives. Facebook did a research the effects of Instagram on teens, and they found that it causes anxiety, which we talked about earlier with anxious. It's the same feeling, and depression. I'm going to see if I can find an article about that because it noted specifically in teenagers that this was an issue. So like that would be 13 to 19.
Yeah, it
But
was a
yes,
lot about body image and feeling, like your body isn't good looking enough, especially for teenage girls, because of on Instagram posting photographs of your your body is such a big part of the app that it can cause a lot of issues, especially for teenage girls, and that is what Instagram found in their own research. Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can send that. Muhammad, what would you like to say?
Okay, thanks, Greg. Social media has actually a good side and also the bad side, and I'm gonna to mention about the bad side itself because a lot of people have many friends in social media. It turns out in their life, in their true life, they have no one. Like they fabricate everything in the social media. It looks like they have a car or good house. They just become a fraud sometime, and they just fake everything up. Like yeah, you have to go out and do your society thing, like um anything, like interact to people, like you have to do more like this. We interact to each other, like it is good habit actually, like, rather than to live up your social media, Instagram, Facebook, and everything, and then you just impress people without impress yourself in reality. It is painful. It is good at the first time, but it will be painful in the end of uh in the end of the time where you realize that it is all wrong.
Yeah, I think balance. It's good to not spend too much time on video games or on social media. You have to have a balance of time spent online and offline. I think for sure.
Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up or end the show. I'll stay on. Maybe Dan will stay on just for a few minutes if we have some final comments or questions. But otherwise, I would like to say thank you uh, to Dan for joining us today. We had a great conversation. It was really interesting. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
It was fun.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
I'll
Dan.
be back.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dan.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.